everyone. Hello, New Haven. This is Arts Respond on WNHHLP 103.5 FM, New Haven. And it is our last show of the year. I can't believe we made it. I'm in denial about being close to the end of the year. It looks kind of more like March, April outside because of, climate catastrophe. But we're not going to talk about that today. You can catch me off air if you want to talk about that. Today I am here. I'm Lucy Gellman. I don't know if I said that part. If you don't know that, now you know. I'm here today with Babz Rawls, the fabulous Babz Rawls Ivy, who you may know from Love Babz Love Talk on WNHHLP, who you may know from just events around town, because Babz, you are everywhere. Actually, you and KP are kind of neck and neck.
Oh no, I think she has me beat. No.
But together, you have been everywhere in New Haven. Like, you have covered all 18.7 square miles of this city. Maybe not the annex, but no one needs to go there anyway. And my other fabulous guest is Karen Ponzio, arts writer for the New Haven Independent. Welcome to both of you. I'm so excited to have you here on our end of year arts show. So this year, I feel like we've been saying this for the last 3 years because what is time, right? And we are in the third year of this pandemic. It is still with us, right? We're living with it now, so we're living with it differently. So what's good? What have you been experiencing this year in the arts? What have you seen? We're gonna start happy, so what have you seen, coming back? Because I know that I've seen some things coming back, and sometimes I'm overwhelmed by how much there is, and I have to remember that is actually a sign of living in a place with like a lot of vitality.
Yeah.
And just jump in. We're not going to do hand raising or any of that.
I've seen a lot of good stuff. I mean, I saw the Jelly's Last Jam at Long Wharf Theater, which was the coolest, baddest play read ever done. I've never seen a play read that felt like a real full-on production.
Yes, shout out Long Wharf. We'll talk about them too because they're in all sorts of transition. Okay, so Jelly's Last Jam,
and Jelly's Last Jam leading up to it at the Stetson.
Yes,
that's the recent, but that all of Arts and Ideas I thought last summer was just wonderful. I went to just about everything. And I thought that was just a wonderful parade of interesting musical performances, and who doesn't love a drag show, right? Like, so I mean, it was a lot of things at Cafe 9. Things at Three Sheets just brought jazz back. I mean, I've seen a lot of interesting, cool stuff all over the place. That I absolutely love. I went to a lot more galleries this year than I normally would.
Yeah,
I normally would, but just more.
New Haven. I mean, we'll talk about this. I'm a big champion of the city, and I know that both of you are too. New Haven punches way above its cultural weight. If you said to someone,
I like that.
If you said to someone, you've got a city in America, it's 18.7 square miles. And 135,000 people live here, someone would be like, okay, well, you probably got one gallery, maybe you got one struggling venue, and we're amazing, right? We're amazing. And so KP, you have also been everywhere. You bounced back from surgery. I was like, oh my God.
So I do want to say that this year typically I type up everything I've done. I keep more of a close track of where I've been and what I've written about, or if I've just attended without writing about it, or if I've performed, that type of thing. And last night I sat down and I didn't think I did a lot between COVID still, the beginning of the year, it got started off slow. There weren't as many shows still. And then having surgery, and I really kind of stopped going to shows from June till about October, because I had surgery in July. And I'm like, you know what? I still did a lot. I was still like, wow, I really did more than I thought I did.
As someone who reads you, I can attest to the fact that you covered about 90,000 things this year.
I talked to a lot of people. What I will say is I spoke to a lot of artists. So two things that were, it's not that was new for me, but I did more interviews and profiles this year than I typically do. So I spoke to a lot of artists, which I love to do, and which, thank you to them for, meeting me in the middle when I was, still on, still homebound or, with my cane, that type of thing. But we know so many lovely people. It's just like, I'm really always just so pleased by that, about how the community comes together for one another and supporting one another. So, but I want to kind of, because Babz brought up Arts and Ideas. So Arts and Ideas was right before my surgery, but I ended up not going to the music events, but I did a couple of food events. I did the tour of Fairhaven. I did the Sanctuary Kitchen one at Rawa. I got to tell you, and I also just went to the Tibetan Kitchen this past week.
I saw that. I saw that piece. I don't even know where it is.
It's right next to Rudy's. It's right next to Rudy's on Chapel Street, like right next to Rudy's. There's not a lot of seats there, but my God, the food. And I know they were in Middletown before, so people are familiar with them. But basically what I want to say is the food events at Arts and Ideas, this is like, this is not my first year covering them, are incredible, and also lends to the fact that in this small space, the opportunity for exploring food and cuisine is just ridiculous. There's so many places. People say to me all the time, they're like, "Are you just go out to eat every week?" I'm like, "Yes, of course I do, because I don't travel. We really don't travel, but I'll be at a restaurant every week, twice a week, 3 times if I can do it." But there's so much. And then you also have the opportunity, which I've reported on before and this year as well, of going somewhere and listening to jazz and eating. Going to a restaurant, going to a bar, someplace and having some food and drinks and listening to music. I mean, Nick DiMaria with the Jazz Underground at different places.
Yes, I mean, he is
Blue Plate
growing
Radio. That. Yeah, Blue Plate Radio, they do, they have a Harvest and South Bay. You can go to the Owl Shop, has had for years. I mean, we're just so, but yeah, I had to say something about the food because
yes, and I love, Karen, that you like when someone is reading one of your articles, you're all about the food, and you are like everyone's favorite. Okay, I'm saying this with like a lot of love, right? You're like everyone's favorite Italian mom. Or my favorite. I hope my mother, who is part Italian, is not
Mama
listening
KP.
To this. Mama KP. And so I have talked to people. People have been like, "Oh my God, did you read Karen Ponzio's article about the Grand Avenue food tour?" I think she was just having so much fun because you talk about the food. Like, I get hungry reading your articles. There was some jazz article at I want to say a steakhouse. I don't even eat meat.
Oh, Jack's
Karen.
Steakhouse. Was Nick's.
And I loved your article. I was like, oh, if anything is going to get me off vegetarianism, it is this article.
Listen, if I can write about the food, I'm writing about that food. You know what I mean? Like when I went to the thing at the Schubert, the Elm City's Finest, which was fantastic. Babz was hosting. That show was incredible. Babz.
That was my second favorite thing this year because I just loved it.
And I've never been to the Schubert to report. I've obviously been to the Schubert before, and my husband came with me. And then afterwards, they had all this food to try downstairs, and I'm like, I'm writing about this food. It was incredible. It was just. I was like, and Joey's like, "This is your job." I'm like, "I know, right?" It's like so good.
It is. I will say, it is still work.
It is absolutely
just so
work.
People know, because people say, and KP, you and I have talked about this, and Babz, maybe you and I have talked about. People say, "Oh, you must just have the most fun job in the world," and I do. I love being an arts reporter. It is in New Haven. It is the best city, the best job in the best city in the world to do this work, and it is still work.
Yes, it's still work. It's absolutely work.
So I love KP that you brought up the Schubert, and I also want to ask about changes. So change is inevitable. I think there is a question about whether we're seeing more change because of this like weird 3-year period that we have been in, that has in many ways shifted the arts. and Brian Slattery, who is the arts editor at the New Haven Independent, who couldn't join us today, but hi, Brian, if you're out there listening, we love you very much. Has talked about how the pandemic has been really hard in a lot of ways for individual musicians and individual venues. So those things have changed. Also, Karen, you brought up the Schubert. So we've seen leadership transitions in the last 3-4 years in New Haven. And I love that you brought up the theater, because Anthony McDonald, who's the executive director over at the Schubert, he's doing the work, right? That if you had asked me 2.5 years ago if I thought that the Schubert would be at the top of my list of venues doing programming that really reflected New Haven, I would have thought you were pulling my leg. Yeah. And this year, not just Elm City's Finest, a Soldier's Play was it last week, 2 weeks ago? I don't know what time is.
Yeah, I didn't see it. Yeah, I know you did that.
It was amazing. I mean, it was really amazing. And so I would love to hear from both of you about changes that you've seen in the art scene that you're really jazzed about. And we can also talk about changes you're not so happy about. But
I mean, I'm happy about full transparency. I serve on the board of Long Wharf Theater, and I chair the Arts Council New Haven board. So I'm hella biased, but that's fine. Rightly so. I'm happy for the changes. Let me tell you, what the pandemic did was put us at an intersection of racial reckoning, artists in the gigging community, and what that looks like. Because I don't think people really had a real understanding of what the gigging community was. I mean, I didn't fully know. I didn't realize so many people were making their living through the gigging community, through the art of getting gigs to support themselves. I had no real awareness of that. And so we found ourselves at the intersection of racial reckoning around artistry and art, but the artists brought racial reckoning to the stage. We've always had a racial problem, but artists brought racial reckoning to the stage. And then you put on top of that a gigging community where artists of every color was feeling the desperation of the pandemic. So change was inevitable. Theaters across this country are having these very conversations about how do we plan for a changing audience? How do we plan for an aging audience? How do we plan for equity and inclusion in audiences? So everybody's having this conversation at educational spaces, theatrical spaces, all these spaces. So we have no choice but to sort of ride the waves of change. And, New Haven is good at that, right? Like, we were once the model city. Now we're like some other kind of city and the greatest, smallest city in America. And I mean, so we understand something about change in this town. And I say this all the time. I said, if one person has an idea in the town, there's like 100 other people who will support it, right? Like, that's just how it is. So when change came, there was a great deal of support. There was a great deal of support for Long Wharf Theater moving toward this itinerant model. I mean, we had no choice to do that, right? It was time to do that. 50-something years in the same space, in a space that we could no longer put more money into. And people are like, oh, well, the community should have been a part of it. The community was a part of it. We have a whole board that represents the community. And it's not just it's a very inclusive representative board. So, and then we started having these conversations, which I loved. And it made me think about how people in this town care so deeply about their institutions, their iconic institutions that they love so much. But we just went back to our roots. But there's change everywhere. I mean, look at the library, how they added that whole interactive component. That wasn't there when I was a kid. No one was thinking go to the library and learn some new skills and create some stuff. So we've seen change, right? We see it, we embrace it. Sometimes we have to be dragged to it. But I think this city is built for that kind of change. We meet it head on, whether we like it or not. So the arts world just amplified that, I think.
Yeah. And And I'm also curious, you know, I'm not going to call anyone out. Maybe on a show in 2023. We'll save that for. Someone said to me the other day, you got to ask yourself, is this a December problem or is this a January problem?
Yes.
And I'm
Agreed.
enjoying that question. I'm savoring that question.
I like that too. I'm gonna use that.
Yeah. So maybe we'll save the shade throwing for January 2023. Just come in strong. So, but I will say, Babz, you know, you brought up this racial reckoning, and in some ways, yes, that's been going on in the U.S. for 403 years, and in some ways, yes, it really came to the forefront in I would say like June through August 2020, and then beyond that in a very public way. And I'm interested in asking you because there was a lot of posturing from, again, not going to use names, from some organizations and some artists in our city. And then there was social change from some of them. And I want to talk about the symphony. I want to talk about Joelle Thompson's work because it is really
that was my third favorite thing.
Virtuosic and revelatory.
That's my first favorite thing.
And so I want to say, you know, what were you seeing that did actually do the work? Because I think there were a lot of institutions that said, we care about Black Lives Matter. And then it was sort of like, okay, well, show me the books. And the boards didn't change. And the way that artists were being paid didn't change. And even exhibitions at certain spaces or galleries didn't change. And then at other places, they really put their money where their mouth was. And for arts organizations, it is about paying artists. It is about what kind of programming you have. And so for both of you, you know, what were some things where you were seeing them and thinking, this is really exciting because there really is a conversation going on. And KP, as you know, that conversation doesn't have to be in words, right? It can be in music, it can be through dance, that is about social change.
Yeah. And I think this is another one of those things when Babz is talking about change, you know, I was actually just having a conversation with Brian about this, and it's kind of like one of those things, like some people look at change as people who change as like flakes. You know, if you don't do the same thing all the time, you're a flake. And I'm like, it kind of bothers me. You know, I'm somebody who changed completely what they did, like midlife. Like I totally did a 180 from what I was doing before. But I think that COVID made us have to confront that change is going to happen whether we like it or not.
Yeah.
You know, and then you decide what you want to do with that. So you did see these venues that you were like, we still want to keep going. We want to still be here. And they changed how they provided entertainment. Now, and you know, some like the best example of that is Best Video with their patio.
Yes.
You know what I mean? And Best Video and they've also had a change this year with the executive director change there too. But they just keep going. They just keep adding in. There's films, there's a lounge night, there's book discussions. I was there for Lost Tribe a couple of weeks ago, and Jocelyn's, you know, they're working on a film, speaking with musicians in Hartford, and she's trying, you know, she's talking about how like this is you know, I'm talking about the neighborhood I grew up in, the city I grew up in, but these conversations, we can have these conversations everywhere, you know.
And who thought Hamden would be such a cultural hub just because of Best Video?
Oh my God, Mandingo ambassadors who were there last week. I mean, you have like this world-class musician who lives in town and, you know, kind of comes down there and plays guitar, you know, a couple of shows a year. And it's like, and I don't know if you've ever been to that, but you're like, it's literally.
I've not made my way to Best Video yet. It's on my list.
We're gonna take a trip, Babz.
Yes.
It's a little trip up Whitney Avenue.
Music. Yeah, Mandingo ambassadors. Like but again, but then in one night there's punk, and one night there's, you know, rock and roll, and another time there's bluegrass. It's just the variety that they bring there. And, you know, Cafe 9's very good at that. Cafe 9 is always, you know, shout out to Paul for just coming back. You know, they were the place that had music every night. Yeah. And then with COVID, they didn't.
And now they do.
And now they do again. And they're, and you have, they had the trans music festival a month ago, and they're just, it's not, they didn't just come back and do the same thing. They came back to give everybody music, but now, because, you have to, we're talking about New Haven, but you have to also bring in the fact that a lot of touring musicians, not just local musicians, they're having a really tough time. They've had to cut their tours short or cancel their tours because of COVID, because of costs. I don't know how much you guys have read about or know about a lot of these venues, not New Haven, but a lot of these venues nationally are now taking a percentage of a cut of the merch that bands sell, which is like unbelievable. But so they're not, you talk about, Babz was talking about gigging musicians and people who make money doing that. So now you're talking about maybe these national acts can't come in anymore. Maybe these touring acts that used to always come through New Haven and stop at Cafe 9 just aren't able to do that. And what do you have instead? Well, then let's find new acts. Let's see who else is doing some stuff. There's some new Caitlin and Mike, who both worked at Cafe 9, or now both have like a Elm City Underground, is Hannah and Mike, and Soulflower Psychedelia is Caitlin. So they're producing their own shows. Let's get some more local people in here. Let's get some bands in who were not even of age when COVID began. And now they're 21, 22, and they have a band and they want to play their music. It's like, yes, I want to see these young, that's what I want to see. I want to see opportunities for these young people as well as people who have been around. And I think that's an important thing to see, because there's still, we can shine it up and dress it up all we want, but COVID is still out there and people are still being affected by it, financially, physically, mentally, every which way. So anyway, I think that any change that brings new people into it, or brings people who've always been into it in a new way, is important. And that's everybody.
Yeah.
That's everybody. No, every level. You never been on a stage before? Get on the stage. You've been on the stage. You've been on world stages. Come down to New Haven. We'll buy you a beer. We got you. So yeah, I think that's the thing we have to, because we all still want this. I do. Yeah. I know the two of you do. Mm-hmm. We all still want this. So how do we keep it going?
Yes. Yeah, I think that's true. And I think, I have long loved the idea, and some places do this, but like a sliding scale price also. So if you're going to a venue like Cafe 9, you can probably afford the tickets, but there are certain places where I know, I've talked, for instance, to high schoolers who like can't afford a ticket to the Schubert Theater. And luckily, Anthony McDonald is great. Like Anthony McDonald, and also shout out Kelly Wizzurdo, who is the director of educational development over at, and Kelly, I'm sorry, I probably just got your title wrong, but she's great over at the Schubert, because generally if there's a high school student who wants to get into the show, she just gets them into the show. So, but I've long loved the idea of a sliding scale. So like if you are some muckety muck in New Haven and you make $350,000 a year, I'm cool with you paying $85 to a show or $105 to a show, so that you're subsidizing both the cost of someone else going and you're supporting an artist. Mm-hmm. So that was sort of unrelated. But I also, so I want to ask both of you about some of your favorite things this year, which we've sort of already started to go into. But first, I want to remind people, if they're just joining us, this is Arts Respond on WNHHLP 103.5 FM New Haven. I am Lucy Gellman, editor of the Arts Paper, and I am here with the fabulous Babz Rawls-Ivy, host of Love Babz Love Talk on WNHH, MC at large at just about every event in New Haven. Is that fair, Babz? I think. Board
it
member.
Feels like it.
Board member extraordinaire at many places, including the Arts Council of Greater New Haven, where I work, and Karen Ponzio, or Mama KP, as you may know her, who is a fantastic arts reporter at the New Haven Independent. And like a cook, I don't know, KP, sometimes I see like things you make pop up and I think like, oh, Like there's something with Fruit Loops, maybe? Like
Oh, my Fruity Pebble treats
yeah,
and my rice
exactly.
whiskey treats,
Yeah.
which I used
Amazing.
to bring to Jazzware,
Yes.
Amazing. Yes. Oh,
which
Yes.
I hope comes back.
I was gonna say,
I
I
hope it
really
comes
can
back
can
too.
we bring back Jazzware? Because I really miss it. So I want to ask both of you. You just brought up the fact that yes, COVID's still with us, and I don't know if people have seen this, but if you are out there and you're worried about COVID, or even if you're not, one, please, please, please get vaccinated and get your booster if you haven't already. But also, you can order tests from the government again for
Oh,
free. You
right.
should go do it on the Googles. So for both of you, what are some of the most exciting performances? And I don't care if they happened on a big stage. I don't care if there were hundreds of
Uh,
people in the audience. What were some of the performances that just moved you this year?
Oh gosh, it was so many. I think I love seeing those young people on stage at the Schubert for the City
that was
Finest.
that was
I
great.
think hands down that was the coolest thing, to have these young people play on this world-class stage, and have them professionally play, right? Like it wasn't like a talent show. It was performance. And they showed up with their A game. So I high five to Anthony and Azaria for pulling that off. And it's only going to grow because now everybody wants to do it, right? The word of mouth was good.
Hmm.
And so hopefully they'll do it again. And I know they'll do it again because it was just a wonderful opportunity. I think again, Jelly's Last Jam moved me so much at the Long Wharf Theater, the play
Hmm.
read that was just incredible. And lots of good music that I saw. I saw Zaweleki at Cafe Nine.
On
And
Tuesday.
Tuesday, and he's our kid, right? Like we've watched him grow up through ECA, and to see him like be a grown man commanding a band, we're like, wait a minute. I mean, I love the kids at Music Haven. I love when I see those children, and they're so serious and diligent about their artistry. I mean, they are serious. So I love that. I loved it. I loved it. I loved it. Um, oh God, it was so many things that I just loved. Uh, that just moved me so much. I don't know, Karen, what else? Because
I
Karen will
agree.
remind me of good stuff.
I agree with the Schubert show. Not just because it was my first time there reporting. I just loved that show. I loved Babz, segueing from one person to the other. There was poetry, there was rock and roll, there was hip hop, there was smooth, there was dancing. It was just it was beautiful. It was beautiful, and then the food after and the drink was lovely. I really felt like that was such a New Haven. I mean, it was meant to be a New Haven in capital letters event. You know what I mean? And they really did that. I mentioned Mandingo Ambassadors. I saw them in March at Best Video. They were just there again a couple of weeks ago. And Jocelyn from Pleasant from the Lost Tribe and other performances too plays with them. But that was just to me, jaw dropping. Brian had said you need to see this, and I knew I did, and I went, and I was like, and that's when I was still kind of uncomfortable, but I sat there just like, like this is, and I highly, highly recommend. There's just this mesmerizing guitar. Khalida and Super Yamba at Cafe 9 was like that as well. Like this world music, these guitar players that are just mesmerizing to me. Like it looks like what they're doing is like, it looks like it's effortless, but it's the most intricate guitar in music you will ever hear.
Yes.
Also, I mentioned the Lost Tribe show that I was at a couple weeks ago, another one at Best Video. I would love also Chesky. I reported on a Chesky show at State House. I will say that Chesky, just again, every single time he plays, I don't care where it is. I mean, State House is a bigger venue. He has, a little more room there and stuff, but he always gets right into the crowd. It was the first time hearing his album, the music that had come out the end of 2021. And just, I think Paul even put it like, Chesky makes reporter cry. God, like for a moment there, I was like, oh my God. Then I was like, no, that's legitimate. I cry. And I will put that in my articles. I cried at um, the show I went to, the last show I went to as well. I just, at Strange Ways,
Oh,
which is another one I will mention. I
I've
went
not
to a
been in
show
that space. I haven't been in that space.
It's so
Yeah.
good.
So
It's so
they
good.
had a show this weekend. No, excuse me, not this weekend. I apologize. Today's Friday.
How
It was
dare you,
Monday.
Karen?
It was Monday night. I know. What day is it? I have no idea.
What is
Monday
time?
night. They did a show on a Monday night. And there were two acts there. Well, the acts there I knew from Fake Four through Chesky and touring. So it was Miles Bullen and Chris Condi and Folk Punk Dad and Blue Raspberry, which is folk punk dad and his wife. And it was the second show there. So talk about change. So here's this little place that was in wonderful little place in Westville that everybody loved, that moved to this other space right in the heart of downtown. And now they're doing pop-ups and they're doing, you can go get your patches put on, and now they're going to have music too. And it's an accepting, welcoming, friendly space to all.
Yeah, shout out really shout out a lot of independent business owners. I'm so proud of, that's one thing that makes me very proud of New Haven. We have all of these amazing small businesses, and you really don't, whatever, capitalism is a disease. I get that. That's for a show in January 2023. However, I will say, like, I have done all of my Christmas shopping within the city of New Haven this year. Or Christmica. Sorry, mom and dad. It like, you don't, well, no, there was something at Concorp, so that was technically in Hamden, but whatever, it was right over the border.
Yeah, we can.
Yeah, the small businesses in New Haven are incredible, and Alex DeCoulis, who's over at Strange Ways, really runs like a beautiful shop. It's incredibly inclusive. It's a space that he opens up to, my experience has been that if people come to him and they say, we need a safe space for trans folk, he says, great, this is the space for you. If someone comes to him and says, like, I want to have a poetry night about how, like, I'm pissed off about the fall of Roe v. Wade, he's like, cool, this is the space for you. And then it's also a really cool store. So if you're still looking for your candles or your socks or some rad pins and patches, or
and
soap
on that note,
that smells like coffee. Yeah.
On that note, Lucy, I want to also mention Volume 2.
Yes.
So
yes.
Volume 2 talk about a place that changed, but yet they kept the spirit of what it was. So it looks different. They've got a regular schedule now that they didn't have before. There's certain people in there every night, but now, they have Brian Robinson's doing an open mic poetry night there. The music, they have people coming in from everywhere. They have local acts that are local musicians that are doing these nights, these very like specific nights of activities and music. They have movie nights, they have games, they're doing so many different things there. I don't want to talk too much because I participated. The stuff I've been there for this year is stuff I've actually participated in as an artist. So I can't say, oh, my favorite show is, the one I was in. But
you can say that.
But we did do
anything you want.
We did a Finnegan's Wake show there that I was thrilled to be a part of, that I'm thrilled that we got to do. The four of us that had done this Finnegan's Wake project, me and Liz Galorn and Connor and Adam Matlock, Connor Pearl, we had all done this project a few years ago. And so I think had been 5 years. I'm like, let's do a show. And we did that. But that's the kind of place that is too. Like Volume 2, it's like,
I don't know, where's Volume 2?
Volume 2 is Never Ending Books.
Oh.
Yeah, it's
I know, and I used to hang out there. Oh,
yeah,
yes.
It's the reimagined. They have so much there. They have, they have improviser, jazz, again, poetry, readings, movies, games. You just go there. They have a night where you just go and work on art projects together.
All the things. And I will,
so many things.
And they also once a month, I think, including this Saturday, they have Maya's Music Room, which is this really beautiful space it's a trans affinity space
Yes.
in honor of Maya Leonardo, who passed last year.
Yes,
and
that is this week. Yeah.
was just this young and incredibly talented musician who we miss a lot.
Oh, okay. Well, y'all know where I hang out these days. If I'm not at Bloom, I'm at Possible Futures Bookstore. I love Bloom because it's another space where all things imagined goes on there. I've gone there for cigar and bourbon parties. I hosted a party there for Black women to sit outside and have dinner together. I've gone there for various activities, for talks, for presentation, for all kinds of things. Oh yeah, and to shop. And
Yeah.
and to eat, because there's a cafe. So Bloom over there in Westville is a wonderful kind of space that morphs into whatever you need it to be whenever you need it.
And I will also say, Babz, the mocktails are
Yes.
amazing. Like I don't drink that much because I'm writing a lot. And if you read my writing after 2 glasses of wine, you would think I was deeply incompetent. So but the mocktails that and I'm forgetting the name of the mixologist, but so good. Like
Justin.
maybe
Although Justin is in and out these days because it's a great incubator space, and everybody that works
It's an
there is
amazing
like,
space.
oh, I want to go do something too. And they go off and do stuff. And then I spend time down at Possible Futures down there on the corner of Edgewood and Hotchkiss, which is another space. I mean, I've hosted a book reading salon there. I mean, it's just a wonderful space where people can be creative and talk and do things and read books by people of color. I mean, you can do all that kind of stuff. Kids, little kids, big kids, old kids, everybody. So
that I love both of those places. I love going there. And bookstores. I wish there was I would love to like Amherst, where there's a bookstore every 3 stores or something like that, would make me happy.
Yeah, I feel like in some ways this was a year for books. I mean, we're also living in a city where literacy is in crisis among our children. But this was a good year for books, for bookstores. We also lost John Jessen, the city librarian, and that is something that I think a lot of us, myself included, are feeling really deeply. He, I think, was appointed to that position around this time in 2019, and so that feels hard and heavy. But this has been a beautiful year for books. And if you haven't checked out Possible Futures, the space that Lauren Anderson is running over at the corner, is it Elman Beers?
Edgewood and Hotchkiss.
Yeah, sorry.
318
I was
Edgewood.
Really wrong. I was very wrong. But
no, you're in the right neighborhood.
and Steve, and so we have so we have a place like that and Lauren, I mean, will get you, like
she'll hook you up. Yeah.
She'll get you anything, but the selection she has is just incredible, and the knowledge and the gatherings, like Babz was talking about, the different events and everything that she's having there as well. And then you have somewhere like Volume 2, Never Ending Books, where the books are free. You can donate, but you can donate to them if you want, and of course, you can always encourage people to do that. But you can go in there, and the books are free. And then you have New Haven Reads, another place in New Haven that's providing Reads. That's providing a wonderful service. I spoke to Fernanda Franco the beginning of this year about
who is an amazing artist.
And again, we bring it back around. She's working there and helping them do wonderful things. That's a wonderful place where you can have tutoring and you can get free books. And she's an incredible singer, an incredible musician and songwriter. So it's just, New Haven is so multi-layered like that. You have people doing these great, the people who are helping to run Volume 2 are some of these phenomenal musicians, writers, artists. It's just, I think, I know it, but now and then you talk about it and you bring it out into the ether, and like now I'm getting like all like cozy and cuddly, like, our people. And
yes, And I do want to, since I asked both of you this question, I also do want to amplify. This year has been really joyful in that I've spent a lot of time in schools and with young people. And I just want to amplify the role that teaching artists play, because we know that New Haven, Justin Elliker, if you're listening to this, but you're probably not, right? Our teachers don't make enough in this city. They don't make as much as teachers in other cities in Connecticut make either. And the teaching artists that I've seen this year, from, T. Montgomery, who's teaching a course in fashion at Cooperative Arts and Humanities High School, to Nikki Claxton, who grew up and knew that she wanted to come back into the classroom as a Black woman and be a dance teacher and also a role model to her students. Like, they are just doing really transformative work every day. And so arts educators, I also just want to amplify the work that they're doing. And a lot of the performing artists we see, KP, you know this, Babz, you know this, are arts educators. I think about people like Isabella Mendez and Flavio Lero, who are teaching artists as well.
Yep, Nick is as well.
Nick Di Maria.
Oh yeah,
and most, like, and Adam Matlock teaches. Right, like, we had to cut an interview short, I think about a week ago, because he was like, well, I've got my 12 o'clock lesson coming in. And so it's, often these roles overlap. So in our last, I don't know, like 10 to 12 minutes together, depending on how long Nora Grace Flood, who's behind the controls today, lets us stay on, I want to ask about some things you're excited for in the next year. I mean, sometimes I'm like, oh, it's not December. The calendar's just playing with me. But 2023 is going to come, whether we want it to or not. And I'm wondering, like, what are you excited for?
I mean, I'm always excited for the year to turn. Like, I'm always listen, because I'm aging and I like it. So I look forward to. I mean, there's staples that you look forward to. I look forward to what the Arts and Ideas Festival is going to bring us this year. Like, I literally look forward to that. I look forward to all the concerts. I look forward to what's gonna happen in Longworth now that we struck up a wonderful partnership with Southern, and what those productions will look like. I look forward to going to the Shubert, and their season is not over yet. They've got stuff coming. They've already told us what they got coming into the new year, so I'm excited about that. I'm excited about the smaller venues. I mean, I want to spend more time at Cafe 9. I want to spend more time at all the other places and hear live music. There's nothing for me better than on a sorry Tuesday night and go sit in a bar and hear good ass music and drink a good beer. I've been running to the Cannon. You know what the Cannon has been doing? They've been having world-class DJs spin records. I can't tell you, that's its own art form too. And the Cannon sits right there in Dwight, right? Dwight
and
Chapel.
Vegan food and
it's vegan, and they have great beer, and it's modeled after an English pub, without all the ickiness of an English pub, right? So I love it, and so more of that kind of stuff, more of gathering with people, because now we're outside, right? Like, now everybody's like, okay, I could come out now, and so just more opportunities to, like, see interesting pieces done, see music. I'm interested in what they're doing at Creative Arts Workshop. I love that big window. I love when they have, interesting artwork hanging there. I'm looking forward to see what they do at the neighborhood music school. Those, we forget those children are so talented. ECA. Have you ever gone to an ECA production? Oh my gosh, they're talented.
Right.
Right?
There, yes.
I mean, it's just so many places that are unconventional. I mean, and also you can always catch stuff at the Yale Divinity School too. They do stuff at the Marquand Chapel that most people don't know about. If you want to hear some uplifting music, if you want a little Black church, like during the week, it's that kind of thing. So it's all these little hidden gems. And I follow Karen Ponzio and Brian Slattery like a bad girlfriend, because I want to, because they go to all the cool stuff, and I'm like, I'm just gonna ride on their coattails and go.
I will also say, in the spring, so it will be here before we know it, even though the weather is trash today. But in the spring, like, do not sleep on high school theater. And I know that sounds funny.
Yeah, no, it's not.
I will say, So I think this was like within 2 weeks, I saw Freaky Friday the musical, which I was going into this thinking like, oh my God, okay, I'm just gonna do this. It was so good. It was. I'm not lying. There's no
No, I
bone in my
know.
body that's lying.
Hill
And then I
House
saw
has got a
Sister
drama
Act.
school and a
Yeah, and
Cross. All these kids.
yes,
Those
well,
kids
and
are
so
amazing.
the kids at Cross, amazing, and then Co-op did Sister Act, and I was like. I was just I was worried that I was like inappropriately just like I don't know, standing up and cheering and clapping because I got so excited to see the kids back on stage, but also it is some of the best theater in New I'm not joking.
I know you're not joking because we've seen some of it, and
Yeah,
it's amazing what the level of talent and commitment that these kids
yeah,
have to
Yeah.
this art.
yeah.
So
Yeah,
yeah.
they want to be heard. They want to be heard, and I think that the thing, I'm not teaching right now. I'm still from the surgery. I'm not teaching at ECA right now, but my time at ECA, I was just I was in the writing program, but to
Yeah.
see all these other departments, anytime we went to any performance, it's always like, and they want to be heard, and you think of it as an artist. I write about artists, but I'm also an artist. You think of it from the artist perspective of being, we were all kind of locked away for a while. And what you found, the people that I talked to during the lockdown, 2020 lockdown, were people who were like, I went back and through songs I didn't forgot about, or I started playing around with this other instrument. And so now we're still seeing the I won't say the repercussions, but we're seeing like we're reaping the benefits of these new bands coming together, somebody trying a new instrument. Again, kids who weren't able to go to Cafe 9 pre-COVID, and now they're of age and can go to Cafe 9 type of thing. So I'll have something like a show I went to at Best Video where it's like Ghost Lot, which are three guys who have been in the New Haven music scene for years, but just had this band together in the past few years. And then there's Queen Kong, who are three younger performers who are maybe playing like their third show ever. And they're both phenomenal. This phenomenal, punk rock, infused, amazing, just incredible. And it makes me so happy to see people that were always doing it persevere. And then to see the doors open for other new talent coming in. So again, Cafe 9, State House, they're having these shows with like 3, 4, sometimes 5 bands.
Yeah.
And some people might be like, oh, that's a lot. And, depending on, how long you want to stay out and what what you can do, but also they're trying, you know what I mean? We cannot forget that that all of these musicians that have lost their tours, that have lost a lot of money and maybe can't do it anymore. You know what I mean? So if there are opportunities for these other musicians, visual artists, dancers, I mean, Alexis Robbins that I talked to this year, who I know you both know very well. Those shows that she has put together,
and they're collaborative, right? Like her in music, and her in something, and I love it.
Right.
So. Or
the art and music, you have these different shows now where they're having vendors at the shows, or people creating live art, which is has happened here and there, but you see that more now. I want to see that. That's what I'm looking for. I want 2023. I don't know if it's because 3 is an odd number. 2023 seems a little sci-fi to me. It sounds like a year in a sci-fi movie. I don't know why. And so to me, what I'm looking forward to in 2023 is like, what's going to be different? What's going to happen next? Like, that's what I'm excited
I turned
for.
60 in 2023. So if that's science fiction, well, I'm here for it.
That's right. The last question I want to ask is, what are you bringing with you into the new year? It doesn't have to be arts related. And what are you leaving behind? Because I think a lot of artists I've seen, in addition to this reckoning, Karen, that you talked about, and Babz that you talked about, in the last sort of 2.5 years, I've seen artists who are just not willing to put up with bullspit in the same way. And I really appreciate, especially folks who have sort of been at the margins and been pushed to the margins by venues run by white people for too long.
Yeah,
I think what I want to do is focus on just going to as many things as I possibly can. I mean, I got some other commitments that I'm taking on educationally, but I think and I was thinking about this before. I think I said this on my show this morning, Lucy, in relationship to this show. So when next year rolls around, I'll be ready. I'm gonna keep a little journal of all the arts things that I pop up at, and just make little notes, like not a dissertation, but just little notes about, you know what, Tuesday night on this day, I was at Cafe 9, I heard this band. And just keep a running tally of where I've gone and what I've done. Because I think that's important. I think that's important to me. So.
KP.
Yeah. Sorry, my phone's ringing. I unplugged it, but I guess that didn't work.
Women apologize too much. Don't apologize. No one's allowed to apologize on this show.
So speaking of that, I had surgery this year, and I kind of said, you know what, maybe it's kind of like a metaphor as well. Like my spine is fixed kind of thing. Like I got my spine back kind of thing. Although yes. I think I've always been pretty good about speaking my, my mind, I guess. But I also, I'm not a person who I don't want to be angry anymore. And I don't want to fight. If I'm going to be angry and I'm going to fight, I want it to be with purpose. I don't just want to stew in it. Does that make sense? So I want to, I want to tell the stories of people who need to be heard if I can. I want to tell my stories, for my own personal art. I want to, I read some poetry this week at the open mic, and I hadn't been doing that. People say, oh, you're recovering. You have all the time to write and create art. You don't feel like doing that when you're recovering. I didn't anyway. Maybe other people do. But I want to participate as fully as I can. It doesn't mean, I'm going to go to I want to go to X number of shows, but like Babz, I want to be out there. I want to see what's going on. And I want to give, voice and face to to other people as well. So the people who've been doing it, but the new people on the scene as well. There's a lot of new places. Like I keep my eye out all the time now. That Gather on State Street, which I went to a couple
Have
weeks
you
ago.
been there? I haven't been there.
It's great. The coffee is good. The art is good. The politics are good. It's all good.
Yeah. So I went there and covered a show. Yeah, I went there cover a show a couple of weeks ago, which was wonderful. And now I saw there's another place, the Cultured Cafe, like on State Street, that's opening. And I saw Brianna and Cliff did something there the other night, and I'm like, oh, I'm gonna have to keep an eye out for that. So it's like I love that the places that we can always count on to have these awesome events going on, like Cafe 9 and State House and Best Video and 3 Sheets, the art stuff that Sarah's done there all year. I know they don't have a lot of music back, but the music they have some stuff coming back, some jazz coming back there. Mm-hmm. The art there, the art opportunities there, incredible. You have the Cellar on Treadwell, which has its own, vibe down there. They have great food there, amazing food there. And they have, you want your metal and your rock and roll and your punk. You go there. They got these amazing metal shows there. So I love that. And then, of course, the places we've already talked about that are changing, like the Schubert, Long Wharf. You want.
And the symphony.
The symphony. What's going to happen with them? What are they doing? And I want, we're so lucky to have these places that have been there and have adapted and are continuing. We have to still keep our finger on that pulse, because it's not, if you're on, I'm on Twitter a lot, so I know try to keep up with what's going on out there beyond New Haven best I can, because I don't travel a lot. And I feel like Twitter, I'm in touch with follow a lot of artists on there, and it's tough. It's not good for a lot of these people who are touring and are trying to keep things going. And if the people with a lot of money and a lot of access can't do it, how are the local people with not a lot of contacts and not a lot of access do it? So hoping that we can keep things going locally in a way that keeps the music going and the art showing and the feet moving. Dance. I love dance. I'm back to dancing.
Dance is great. Yes.
I'm looking forward to dancing in 2023 too, Lucy.
Yes, let's do it. Well, I want to thank both of you so much for being here. What I am bringing into 2023 is inspiration from both of you to cover more things I want to cover. Also inspiration from both of you to say no more often to people I don't want to cover. No names, but you know who you are out there. And so thank you both. Happy holidays.
Happy holidays to you,
Oh,
Luke. I love these.
Happy and merry everything.
Thank you for having me on this. This was lovely. I love this. This is the trifecta here. Wow.
It is. Well, we miss Brian.
We do.
We miss Brian, but I'm okay with like this level of
this was fun.
Estrogen killing it. Yeah. So anyway,
well,
I love you both so much.
Merry
holidays. Merry everything, y'all. We will see you in 2023.
Yes.